Bad news. Only 7.3% of founders successfully raised money in 2024. Good news. Your competitor's pitch deck sucks just as bad as yours. How to make your pitch less tragic and more likely to raise money next on this episode of An Acquired Taste. So with a success rate of 7.3% for founders trying to raise money in 2024, that means about 1 in 14 pitches actually resulted in funding, which is surprisingly an improvement from 2023, which was only 4.3%. What do the most successful pitch decks have in common? Let's get into it. So number one, a clear problem and solution. So the best pitch decks start by clearly defining a significant problem and immediately follow up with a concise, compelling reason that you are the only startup, the only founding team truly capable of solving that problem. Keep it clear, keep it free of jargon. If it's a very technical product, dumb it down. Make it easy for investors to grasp the value proposition and how you are going to solve this problem. Dropbox famously wrote in their pitch deck, and I quote, "People lose files, can't easily sync data across devices, and collaboration is a hassle." I get it. It's not the most scintillating text you're ever going to read, but it captured all of those things that I just said were super important. It's clear, it's concise, and it talks about how they're going to solve the problem. And now Dropbox is ubiquitous. Everybody uses Dropbox. Everybody has it, and everybody uses it for exactly that reason. So kudos to the founding team of Dropbox to figure out that this is actually what we're solving and then doing it. The second thing is being a compelling storyteller and providing great visuals. Successful decks use storytelling to connect emotionally with investors. If you think this is just a financial pro forma exercise, you're wrong. They want to understand why you care about this, why you are going to work so hard on this, why this matters to you and to your founding team. Whenever you can use engaging visuals instead of text, do it. Keep the slides engaging. You can process information much more quickly visually than you can by reading a bunch of text. It'll make it more memorable. It'll make it easier to follow. Just wanted to say thanks. We recently hit 100 subscribers, and that's a big deal to me. May not be a big deal in the world of YouTube, but it certainly means a lot to me that you would subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, help us reach our next goal of 200 subscribers by subscribing today. One of the examples I will give on this storytelling is Bill Smith, the founder of Shipt. He told the story about trying to go grocery shopping with his very young child. And if you've ever had the pleasure of shopping, specifically grocery shopping, with a very young child, it sucks in all the ways that you can and maybe cannot imagine. So he talked about what would it be like if I could do Instacart, but I could do it based on a couple of fundamental changes. I'm not going to get into all of the changes, but one of the things that he wanted to do was he wanted to make customer service and the customer experience top-notch, way better than you would see at Instacart. But what he was demonstrating was two things. One is, why did it matter to him? How did he feel it? And also, two, demonstrating he deeply understood his target demographic of who would use this service in the future. It was young parents. It was busy parents, folks that didn't have the time to figure out how to juggle a soccer practice, an choir practice, and after school this, and on the weekends that, and still go grocery shopping and make sure that you got the things that you need. So he did a couple of things brilliantly by just sharing his story and why it mattered to him. When that doesn't exist, when that story doesn't exist, when that personal detail doesn't exist, it's pretty glaring. And the whole pitch is going to suffer for not having that in there. That context matters. Make sure that you're paying attention to that. It's important to talk about the market opportunity with data. How do you tell your story and include data? Every successful pitch deck clearly articulates the target market, its size, the opportunity. It uses credible data, realistic assumptions. It's not pie in the sky. There's no hockey stick up and to the right graphics. It talks about what this opportunity really looks like and why that's compelling. A bottoms up versus a top down analysis will help build that credibility. If you're not familiar with that, a quick Google search will explain it. But instead of just saying, hey, the total market size for this thing is 18 trillion gabillion dollars, and we're just going to get 2% of it, and that will be fantastic, and we'll make a bunch of money. That's not a pitch that's in vogue anymore. It's kind of a derivative model. Instead, what investors actually want to see is, how do I start with my first couple of customers and then grow into the market from there? How do I expand the product line? How do I respond to that market, to that customer feedback, to my own team and their growth, and how that affects the product? Ridiculous numbers are like nails on a chalkboard to a VC. It's immediately apparent that you're guessing. It's immediately apparent that you're stretching. And it's immediately apparent in some cases that you're just fabricating. Don't do it. Stay away from it. In the early pitches to investors, Uber did kind of that top-down derivative model. Back then, that was something that was common. People did it all the time. And they talked about the $3.5 to $4 billion taxi market. And if they could just get a little piece of that, it would be a significant amount of revenue. And that's not wrong. And there's nothing inherently bad about that analysis, but it's incomplete and it's definitely inaccurate. What they did do well, though, was that they talked about if we could use this technology represented by Uber and their platform, we could expand the number of people using taxis, because taxis are hard to find. Nobody necessarily knows the number to call. How do you pay for it? A lot of people don't carry cash. The equipment could be old. All of those things that Uber was solving for, their belief was that they could expand the market. When you start talking about taking an existing market and expanding it, you definitely have investors' attention and engagement. The most successful pitch decks for raising money are simple, they're focused, and they're brief. I recently heard a great rule of thumb that was the 10-20-30 rule. That means 10 slides that take 20 minutes to present in 30-point font. They're focused, they avoid overwhelming investors with too much information, and each slide has a single clear message. Best example of a successful raise using this methodology or focusing on that brevity was Square, who raised $10 million, and their deck was 10 slides long. That's it. Short decks win. All the best pitch decks can demonstrate a strong business model and financials. They'll explain how the company is going to make money. It's going to be straightforward. It's going to talk about the business model in realistic terms. You're going to have data-backed financial projections so that investors can see a credible path to profitability. I see pitches omit the unit economics of the profit model or of the business model. If you don't know what unit economics are, it's the most fundamental basis for how much does something cost, how much am I going to sell it for, how does this turn into a profit. You'd be surprised how often founders leave that out. So I have to ask the question, okay, great. What do you charge for this? What does it cost? How do you make money? Because ultimately what I'm getting to is, if your unit economics are upside down, meaning you're actually not making a profit, my next question is going to be, how long are they going to be upside down? And what needs to happen to make your unit economics profitable? Because I can't make up for negative unit economics in volume. If you lose money on every single transaction, I can't just do more and make more money. That's not how math works. We get feedback from founders all the time asking kind of what's the point of a financial pro forma? What's the point of a financial projection? I have no idea if this is right. You have no idea if this is right. That is true. Both statements are true. What we're looking for is those financial projections will tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about this money, how you're thinking about mapping out the growth and the trajectory of your company. And this money is a function of that growth, is an input of that growth. We want to see how you're thinking about that. And a financial projection is one of the best ways to do that. You're going to want to explain your competitive advantage and your team and how that team is going to be the team to execute on this vision. The best decks identify competitors. They clearly state what sets your company apart, what sets their company apart. They highlight the team's expertise, their unique qualities, what sets them apart, and what positions them to be successful in this endeavor. There is a huge red flag that presentations often have around competition, market, competition, or competitors in general. And that is when there is an inference or a direct statement that there are no competitors. Two things that come up immediately in any investor's mind is, number one, I don't believe you. You haven't done the research. There are competitors, if not directly, then indirectly, and you just haven't bothered to find them. You're unprepared. I don't want to give you money. It's time for you to leave my office. Number one. Number two, if that is true, it begs the question, well, then why has nobody else tried to do this? It must not be a problem worth solving, or somebody else would have tried it by now. Both of those red flags are bad. Both of those red flags are avoidable. The best pitch decks are very specific about what they're raising and why they're raising it and how they're going to use that money, showing a clear path for deploying the capital tied to goals or growth milestones. So don't just tell me what you're going to spend the money on and when you're going to spend the money, but what does that spend unlock on behalf of the company? Does it create the actual product launch? I need X number of dollars to finalize the product and get it to market. Does it allow for me to gain our first enterprise customer accounts? I can hire this new talent that is desperately needed for engineering or for marketing or for sales. Don't just tell me what and when, but tell me what that money gets you, not just how much you need and when you're going to spend it. That transparent funding and use of funds is often overlooked. And I think that's a mistake because it illustrates the business plan in kind of financial terms. It also talks a little bit about timing around the use of that capital, which helps people understand what are you prioritizing as a company and does that make sense? It also demonstrates a good strategic understanding of how you're going to move forward and how you're going to make this growth happen. Throughout these specific elements, you want to be able to answer the following in a clear and compelling fashion. Why this? Why is this the solution? Why you? What makes you special? What makes your founding team equipped and ready to execute at a very high level and scale this thing to the moon? Why now? Why not later? Why hasn't this been done before? Why is this the specific point in time when this problem needs to be solved using your approach? And then finally, why should they care? How big is this market? How much money could they make? Why do they want to be on this journey with you? Give them a reason to care through these elements, and you're going to be more successful. So this is what successful pitches have in common. They're effective, they're compelling, they're well organized, they're concise. It helps a deck stand out. It builds trust with an investor that you know what you're talking about and you're the team to execute at a very high level and to make them a bunch of money. This is what drives funding decisions. This is what the best decks all have. So what's your biggest takeaway from this? Let me know in the comments. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for checking us out. We'll see you next time.